New York City. Just saying the name brings up these incredible images, right? Towering skyscrapers, those bustling streets. There's just an energy there you can't find anywhere else on the planet. But here's the wild part. Almost everything we think of as New York today didn't even exist 100 years ago. So, okay, let's dive into this incredible 400-year story of how this city kept changing again and again. The whole thing really starts with a pretty simple question. How on earth did a place of dense forests, clean rivers, and just tons of wildlife turn into this? The sprawling megacity, this global capital of finance, of culture, of politics. How did that happen? Today, it's home to more than 8.3 million people. But to really get how we got to this point, we have to go all the way back to the very beginning. So, our story kicks off with the first 200 years. This is the period that sees this land go from, well, an untouched wilderness to a really strategic European outpost. And we have to remember, way before any Europeans showed up, this was Lenape. It was the land of the Lenape people, and they lived here for thousands and thousands of years. But that all started to change in the 16th century. Now, an Italian explorer actually saw the harbor back in 1524, but it was really Henry Hudson, who was sailing for the Dutch in 1609, who blew the doors open. By 1625, the Dutch West India Company had set up a little settlement they called New Amsterdam, built around a fort on the very southern tip of Manhattan. And this brings us to that legendary transaction in 1626. You've probably heard this story. The Dutch bought Manhattan Island from a local Lenape group for goods that were worth about 60 guilders, which in today's money is something like $1,000. An absolutely incredible bargain for what would become maybe the most valuable real estate on Earth. But Dutch rule didn't last very long. In 1664, there was this fierce rivalry going on with the Netherlands, and an English fleet just sailed right in and took the colony without firing a single shot. They renamed it New York for the Duke of York, and well, that name stuck. And this takeover really sets the stage for the next big era, where New York goes from being just a British colonial town to being this absolutely vital center for a brand new nation. You see, before and after the Revolution, New York was right in the thick of it. It was a hotbed for groups like the Sons of Liberty. It hosted the Stamp Act Congress to protest British taxes. And then, after the war, it became the very first capital of the United States. George Washington himself was inaugurated right there, on Wall Street. But the thing that really put rocket fuel into the city's growth was this unbelievable piece of engineering, the Erie Canal. When it was finished in 1825, it was a total game changer. It created a direct water route from the Atlantic all the way to the country's huge interior. All of a sudden, New York was the commercial gateway to America. And just look at what happened next. The population went ballistic. It was fueled by all this commerce from the canal and just waves of immigrants looking for a new life. The city ballooned from 60,000 people in 1800 to over 500,000 just 50 years later. It's staggering. But that kind of growth, it always has a dark side. The overcrowded tenements, they became breeding grounds for diseases like cholera. Notorious gangs ran neighborhoods like the 5 Points. And all those social tensions finally just boiled over during the Civil War with the draft riots of 1863, one of the absolute worst cases of civil unrest in all of American history. And yet, and this is what's so incredible about New York, out of all that chaos and all those challenges, the city just kept building. It started creating the iconic structures and institutions that we all recognize today. Just look at this period of construction. It's unbelievable. You've got the Brooklyn Bridge stitching Manhattan to the growing city of Brooklyn. The Statue of Liberty becoming this global symbol of hope. Ellis Island opens up, the gateway for millions. And then the subway system starts tying this whole sprawling metropolis together from underneath. And at the exact same time, New York was becoming the nation's cultural capital. You've got these world-class institutions like the Met and the Museum of Natural History being founded, Broadway's theaters start to light up, and the amazing New York Public Library gets established. And then the city started racing upwards. It was this fierce architectural competition to build the tallest building in the world, and that race gave us these iconic shapes on the skyline, the Woolworth, the gorgeous Chrysler, and finally, the legendary Empire State Building, which just shouted the city's confidence out to the rest of the world. So all this ambition carries New York right into the 20th century, which was a time of these dramatic, incredible highs and absolutely devastating lows. And all of it would end up forging its status as a true global capital. Honestly, nothing shows you the city's volatility like the years between 1920 and 1930. The Roaring Twenties were just this decade of wild decadence, with like tens of thousands of illegal speakeasies popping up during Prohibition. And then, bam! The Wall Street crash of 1929 plunges the city into the Great Depression, where desperate, homeless New Yorkers were literally building shantytowns, Hoovervilles, right in the middle of Central Park. What really started the city's recovery was the outbreak of World War II. The factories mobilized, the massive port became this critical hub for shipping troops and supplies across the Atlantic. It was a vital lifeline for the entire Allied war effort. New York came out of the war stronger than it had ever been. I mean, while other huge world cities were in ruins, New York just rose to this whole new level of global importance. It became the permanent home of the United Nations. It basically stole the title of center of the art world away from Paris, and its financial markets really started to rival London's. And that really brings us to the core theme of this whole story, right? New York's incredible, almost endless ability to just reinvent itself. This quote, it just says it all, doesn't it? From fires and riots to financial crashes and moments of unbelievable tragedy, the city has faced just immense setbacks. But the one thing that defines it again and again has been its ability to get back up, to rebuild, and to completely reimagine what it is. So you go from a tiny Dutch trading post to the capital of the world. The whole story is just one of relentless change. And it leaves us with one final fascinating question to think about. After 4 centuries of proving it can become something new, over and over again, what will New York become next?